Now, time for us to talk about the four siddhanta or four aims. What is it? Why is so important?
Okay. Well, the four siddhanta, or that's a Sanskrit word, the four siddhanta, the four aims is found in a treatise called the Treatise on the Great Perfection of Wisdom that is attributed to Nagarjuna, but was translated. It may have been written and or compiled by Kumarajiva. He was the great translator who also translated the Lotus Sutra, who translated it into the Myoho Renge Kyo that we chant today. And this was in the, if I'm remembering it, the 5th century, beginning of the 5th century. So this is a very long treatise, a treatise on the great perfection of wisdom. And it's very much a centerpiece for the studies of the Tendai school. And Nichiren quotes it many times himself. And in this treatise, Nagarjuna, or perhaps Kumarajiva, lays out this idea that there are four aims in teaching Buddhism. And the first is the worldly aim, that if you can teach people about cause and effect, and the idea if you make good causes, you'll be able to attain another birth as a human or in the heavenly realm, and you'll get yourself into good circumstances where you can practice Buddhism and attain liberation. Uh, but if you but if you commit bad causes, you'll fall into these lower realms of the hells and hungry ghosts. Basically, like undermine your own life and hurt the people around you. That if you can understand this, you'll be able to avoid bad causes and make good causes, and at least have worldly happiness, at least. But more importantly, set up a situation where you can transcend mere worldly happiness. So that's the first aim, the worldly aim. And the second and third aims are kind of branches of that. The second aim could be called the individualized aim. And what it is about is using your practice to cultivate the strengths that you already have. So, say that you're a very loving, devotional person, then you could practice devotion to the Buddha, offering flowers, uh, circumambulating stupas, things like that, that will help increase the devotion you already have. Or if you're a very generous person, then practice generosity, donate your time and your money and things that you have to help the people around you. So you find what you already have and you make it stronger, maintain it and make it stronger. The third siddhanta is the therapeutic. So we all have the three poisons: greed, hatred, delusion. So there are Buddhist practices that you can use to counteract those. So if you're a very lustful person, for instance, you can go into a graveyard and meditate on death and decomposition, so that you won't be so attached to the body. That's a classical Buddhist practice. Or if you're somebody who's constantly resentful and full of hate, you would meditate on cultivating loving kindness, both for yourself and for others, and even to people that you don't get along with, and then try to radiate that loving kindness out to all people. So that's another classical Buddhist form of meditation. If your problem is distraction, then you would meditate on the breath, or chanting, a phrase like the Daimoku. Of course, in this case, Daimoku can be used for any of these practices, really, which I'll explain in a moment. If you're deluded and don't understand how the world works, and you would meditate on causes and conditions, especially the 12-fold chain of dependent origination. So this would be the therapeutic siddhanta or aim, to overcome your weaknesses. And as I said, these are two branches of the worldly siddhanta. And then finally, the fourth siddhanta is the supreme meaning siddhanta, which means your aim is to realize the true nature of reality. Uh, Beyond just conditionality, you see the unconditioned, you see the empty nature of all things. And I think this teaching is very important because, in my experience of Buddhism in America, I found that a lot of the people who chanted Daimoku, at least initially, are very focused on like worldly happiness and success. They want stability in their lives. They want a decent place to live, a good job, loving relationships, things like that. Um, and Oftentimes, they think of these goals of attaining the unconditioned and nirvana and all that is they're not interested in that. That's something for monks or people who are in a very elite kind of place, and they're not interested in that. Maybe they will and do become interested in that eventually, but that's not where their initial attraction is. And then on the other hand, there are many people who practice like Zen meditation or different forms of Tibetan Buddhism or Vipassana, and sometimes their goal is very sublime. They want to attain enlightenment. Maybe they've had worldly success, uh, and they see that it doesn't make them happy. So, they leave everything and enter a monastery or go on long retreats. And the problem is these two groups, the people who are practicing like the Zen or Mahamudra, Dzogchen, whatever, they kind of look down on the people who are just chanting for worldly things, and they think, they're just being superstitious. They don't really understand what Buddhism is. And then the people who are using chanting to improve their lives on a daily in their daily basis are looking at these other people going, well, you're just elitist, and you don't understand that Buddhism is about being in the world and actually helping people in a practical way. So there's this kind of divide. I'm exaggerating a bit, but perhaps not too much. And I was very inspired, by the way, watching Bishop Harada's talk of the Buddhist Churches of America, where he was talking about practical level Buddhism and truth level Buddhism. And that made me think of these four siddantas. And for some years now, I've been telling people that as Buddhist teachers, we need to teach all four levels and not just stick to one side or the other. And really, the first three siddantas are what Bishop Harada was calling the practical Buddhism, and the fourth siddhanta is the truth level. But really, when you look at it, you practice the worldly siddhantas long enough, you get a deeper and deeper understanding of things, of life, and you eventually end up at least getting closer to realization of the fourth aim. Whereas if you really get the fourth aim, you're also going to understand that you need to bring that back to the people and bring that back into life as a bodhisattva. So that means embracing the first three, at the very least, as skillful means to help other people. But really, I think you need to recognize no matter how high up you get, you're still going to have to find a way to get clothing, food, shelter, and handle practical realities and relationships. So, once again, they need to be bound together. So I can talk about how that can be applied to Daimoku practice, but maybe I should stop for a second and see what question or comment you
No,
might.